Hi folks, welcome to Federal Premium's Vital Zone. The hunt we're getting ready to look at is with Buckmaster's Elliot Allen as he does an early morning rifle hunt in my home state of Alabama. Let's go right to it. This right here is an early morning hunt in Alabama a few years back, and Elliot's in basically a tripod stand with rails all the way around it, using his grunt call and cannon and trying to get these deer to react. And he had a nice buck come out in front of him, but he was just popped out of the thicket. They're basically in a sage field in between two thickets. The thicket's probably 175 to 200 yards in front of them. They got a big one behind them. These deer like to cut across this sage field going from thicket to thicket to check the does. But, you know, he sat there, and all of a sudden, after he got through using the can and the grunt call, this same deer popped back out to the right. He's got about a 175-yard shot. He's got one of those Stony Point monopods with also a little rail that goes back to the trigger guard right there to really try to keep him steady, and he's also using the rail right there of the tripod. He puts those crosshairs, he got a perfect broadside shot, perfect, put it right there in the middle, right behind the shoulder right there, so let's go right to the shot. As you can tell right there, Elliot smokes this deer right there. He kind of does a little low run, hooks back in the brush right there, but let's do this. Let's put it in slow motion and see exactly where that bullet hits the deer. As you can see the red dot right there, that's just a smidgen to the left where Elliot was aiming a perfect shot. But let's do this. Let's go to the Federal Premium Vital Zone and see exactly where that bullet goes through the vitals. As you'll notice, the bullet coming in right here, it's going to go just right where he aimed, just a smidgen to the left, right in the middle of the right lung, all the way through, and does a complete pass through to the lower part of the left lung. And folks, that is definitely a fatal shot. That buck right there didn't go 50 yards, just kind of made a little loop out in the field and fell right there inside the brush right there. Elliot made a great shot on him. A few tips right there is they were hunting in a tripod stand that had rails all the way around it. He was using a Stony Point monopod that also had an extension that went back to the trigger guard. So that way he was perfectly steady in the stand. He had a 175 to 200 yard shot. This buck right there, like I said, it was in January. They were sitting kind of in between two thickets. This buck came out of the thicket and was coming right, you know, straight at him, but hooked back in there. He must have been chasing a doe. So Elliot got out his grunt call and had a can and started using the grunt call and using the can. That buck heard it and stepped back out right there and gave him a perfectly broadside shot. So when you're hunting in the rut, make sure you take your rattling horns, your grunt call, and a can, and maybe you can get a buck just like that one that Elliot did. Well, folks, that's another buck, part of the Federal Premium Vital Zone.